Good morning. Today we're here to give an update on the officer-involved shooting that occurred last night in the area of South Moreland in the city of Cleveland. So to start with the context of what led to this officer-involved shooting. Just before 9 p.m. last night, the Division of Police personnel who were working our violent crime reduction detail in the 3rd District were notified about a series of carjackings that had just occurred in the 1st District. The information we had is just before 9 p.m. in the area, the 4200 block of West 150th, a vehicle was taken at gunpoint. A short time later, a second attempted or carjacking occurred in the 4277 area of West 150th. There was also an additional carjacking at 4330 West 150th. The officers were updated on this information and began an active search for the involved vehicle and suspect. Throughout this short time period, we received additional calls for another carjacking in the area of 6502 Quimby, and then another at East 79th and Superior. The officers were able to actively look for the involved vehicle and suspect and located the suspect vehicle in the 5th District, just over the 3rd District border. Officers engaged in a vehicle pursuit at that time. The vehicle pursuit in total lasted almost an hour. It went through multiple districts within the city, and it also entered Shaker for a short amount of time. Throughout this vehicle pursuit, the suspect initially began waving a firearm at the officers who were behind him, and then engaged in shooting at the officers a short time later. We have information right now, verified information, that the suspect did shoot at the officers on East 78th and again at Buckeye. And we were able to determine that through the shell casings and the reports of the officers. We have information that potentially there may have been some pedestrians that were almost struck by this gunfire from the suspect, as well as possibly a vehicle that may have been struck. This is still part of the active investigation. At this time, our officers knew we had a mobile active shooter, and this was our priority to make sure we took this dangerous person off the street. At this time, our officers reached out to the Cuyahoga County Sheriff's Department to ask for assistance throughout this pursuit because the suspect wasn't stopping. The Sheriff's Department did come out and deployed spike strips. The spike strips were effective, meaning they struck the vehicle tires, but the pursuit did continue for approximately 15 to 20 more minutes. Finally, on South Moreland, the Sheriff's Department did do a pit maneuver, bringing the vehicle to a final stop, and at that time there was gunfire exchanged between the suspect and 4 officers on scene. 2 of those officers were members of the Division of Police, and 2 of those members were from the Sheriff's Department. At that time, immediately following that, the officers did render aid to the victim. The suspect has not yet been charged. He's still seeking medical treatment, but we will share the fact that it's a 38-year-old male from Cleveland that's the suspect, and it was the only individual that was in the car. The Cleveland Division of Police Use of Force team, or FIT team, is following up in the lead on this investigation. And right now, I want to make sure that I thank Sheriff Pretel, members of the Cuyahoga County Sheriff's Department for their assistance in helping us bring a closure to this violent crime spree that occurred last night. At this time, before we take any questions, I'm going to turn it over to Sheriff Pretel for a few comments.
Thank you, Chief. Good morning, everyone. Just want to mention, first of all, thank the Lord that our officers and deputies are okay and that they were available to respond to this and end this spree that went on. Not just the crime, but the total disregard for safety of our community. So it's important that we have police officers and deputy sheriffs and our partners in federal agencies, ATF and so on, who are committed to stepping forward and helping us in reducing this violent crime. These incidents don't occur in a vacuum. They touch all of our communities. Not just the actual victimizing, but then you have downstream effects of pursuits and different things that go on. So it's important that we have the right people in the right place. And through our partnership, we're making our community safer overall. But important to note, violent crime, carjacking is why we were our assistance was requested by the Cleveland Division of Police. The deputy sheriff investigators assigned to the Response to Carjacking Initiative, which is a federal grant that we're partnering on, responded to assist in this pursuit, which had been going on for a little bit. At that point, they communicated and coordinated well with the Cleveland Division of Police, as we normally do, and they, obviously, as the chief described, following events took place, which ended pursuit ending and officers and deputies providing world-class pre-hospital care before the suspect could be taken to the hospital. But beyond that, the investigation continues. But the most important highlight here is that in order to protect the community, we had to take these actions. In order to protect the community, we recruit and retain deputies and officers and agents who are committed to supporting our community. When these things take place, we do our absolute best to ensure that they're resolved with the least amount of disruption to our communities and end them as soon as possible. Because as you can see, some offenders don't mind just the level of violence they put out in our cities. So thank you very much.
So this time, we'll open it up to questions.
Sheriff, I have one question. That carjacking initiative that you have with federal funding, when did that start?
Thank you for your question. The carjacking initiative started midsummer, late midsummer. We received the grant, and that covers for a couple of deputy sheriffs, a supervisor, and also a statistician from Cleveland State.
Okay, is Cleveland Police involved in that too?
We partner, and not only this, on all of our task forces with Cleveland Police and others, but it's important to know that this carjacking initiative is the first in the country, and unfortunately, it's something that we had a lot occurring here, and this is gonna allow the federal government to gain statistics so that we can deploy and apply for other grants and receive more assistance so our partnership can get stronger.
Okay, so would I say it's a sheriff and Cleveland Police
Sure.
initiative? Okay, thank you.
Were any officers injured during this?
Thank you, that's a really good question. Fortunately, no officers were injured. There was a blood exposure by one of our officers, so he was treated for blood exposure on scene. But fortunately, no one else was injured.
And do you know how many times the suspect was shot or where they were shot?
Right now, we will give updates as we go along. It's still really early on. This was, as you know, this happened late last night. The investigators were out there. We are still canvassing for additional information, victims, and any other witnesses. So we will get those updates as well as releasing body camera within the 7-day timeline.
And you mentioned at the beginning you had several calls for carjackings at gunpoint, kind of all over the place. Just wondering in total, how many were there, and were any of the cars stolen, or did they just try to steal them and they were able to get away? Can you kind of explain that a little bit?
That's a good question. So there was actually 4 actual carjackings where they took the vehicle. He took the vehicle. There was 1 attempted, but there was 4 actual. He did carjack several people and just kept dropping the vehicle, carjacking and continuing on. So there was 4 actual carjackings and then 1 attempted.
And you believe this suspect was involved in all of those?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Can you clarify which officer or officers fired the shots at the suspect that were fatal?
Okay, it's not fatal, for one, but, you know, the suspect was injured. We're not gonna give the names of the officers at this point, but it was 2 members of the Division of Police and 2 members of the Sheriff's Department that fired.
And just to clarify, it was just the one individual that was involved in all 4 of those carjackings that you believe?
The 5, yes.
The 5
Yeah,
carjackings, okay.
yes.
And do you guys know if you've had any run-ins with this 38-year-old male before?
So we're still checking the criminal history. Once he's charged, we'll make sure we get that information out.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can you speak a little bit about the carjacking initiative and its operations so far? Granted that there were several that occurred last night, is that something you're still kind of working on right now?
Yes, the carjacking initiative worked close partnership with the county prosecutor's office, the crime strategies unit, because obviously they collate a lot of the information on violent crimes that happen throughout the county. So having that information, it allows us to focus a little more exactly on where it's happening, who's involved, et cetera. So through collaboration, working on a strike force with our partners, not only our local partners, but federal partners, and the statistician from Cleveland State University and the crime strategies unit, and deploying some technology, we're not gonna get into all that today. There's some technology we're also deploying, so we know when these things occur, and we can respond as close to real time as possible. But the most important thing is that the investigation resides in one place. The carjacking initiative addresses carjacking, which it goes throughout the county, and it can be missed because there could be one-offs, one on the east side, one on the west side, outside suburbs, Cleveland, et cetera. So it's important that we have the finger on those, so we can determine the patterns, determine people involved in those, and determine the best resolution to those.
Have you had any results? I mean, you started in the summer, right? Do you know
Yes.
how it's working or how the results have been?
Yes, we have had multiple arrests of multiple offenders, and the majority of these are sprees, as the chief just noted here.
And this sounds like it was a obviously very dangerous situation last night. You said it was an active mobile shooter for about an hour.
Yes.
And some people, you know, they could have gotten hurt, some people just out on the street. Were any messaging or anything sent to the people in the community to kind of shelter in place or beware, anything like that?
Following the ending of this, we sent an update, but this was very active. And like I mentioned, it went through a good portion of the east side as well as into Shaker for a temporary amount of time. When you have a situation like that, it's really hard to plan ahead, or the warning part of that. So at that, you know, there's really no amount of messaging that could prepare anyone for something like this. But I can tell you that our officers did a phenomenal job. Like Sheriff Pretel, you know, that you mentioned that they have their carjacking task force. We had our stance unit, which we had put in place. They were the point investigators on this, you know, as far as the crime spree that occurred. And, you know, part of that is they're listening for these crimes that occurred throughout the city. And they, you know, were the ones actively involved in coordinating the efforts for this.
And you mentioned that thankfully none of those officers, you know, were hit by any gunfire, but this is still very traumatic. I mean, mentally, how are they doing today? What is the next steps for them? Are they on leave right now? Can you kind of go into that?
So the officers that are involved, that are, were actively involved in the shooting, are automatically placed on administrative leave. We have other officers who were definitely impacted by what happened last night, and that is another thing we look at, and we will make sure that the traumatic events, you know, will be addressed, and if leave is necessary, that'll be granted as well.
So is it 4 officers that are administrative leave, or 2, I'm sorry, 2?
Well, the 2 are automatically just the ones that were in the shooting, but there are additional officers that we are providing resources for.
Okay, thank you.
Can you share the type of firearm that the suspect was carrying?
The firearm, I don't know that I have that right now. I think we talked about it a little bit. I can't confirm it, but we will. Was it a 9mm? Yeah.
Do you know roughly how many shots the suspect fired throughout the incident? Dozens?
Yeah, that's something that we can release at another time. We know that there's shell casings that were along the route as well as on scene.
So it would be safe to say more than a dozen?
I don't wanna
okay.
guess at this point,
Okay.
but, you know, I can tell you that will come out later.
Okay.
Thank you.
Would you describe it as a high-speed chase, or did you flood the zone and tail them and then you put out stop sticks or anything like that?
So the initial part of the pursuit, you would think that in the circumstances, somewhat high speed for a residential area, but we've definitely seen things that have escalated to higher speeds in this. It was a manageable speed for our officers. You know, I think that approximately we are estimating the maximum speed might have been about 60 miles an hour throughout this pursuit. But the spike strips, once they were deployed, which was pretty late into the pursuit, the suspect continued to drive, you know, an additional 15-20 minutes afterwards.
With the carjacking initiative, are there any preliminary patterns or things that have come out of that where you can pinpoint certain areas that are hotspots, or is this an organized thing? Are there any preliminary findings from that?
A couple things, and you hit right on those. So number one, yes, organized efforts by different groups. And these groups, many of them have been already arrested. Others will come up, but many of them have been arrested, so there are groups that do it. And location-wise, obviously we have target-rich environments that they've focused on. They offend there, and then they dispose of the vehicle elsewhere. That's where the investigation continues. So we do have a lot of that collated, and that will probably be another discussion.
And I just wanna, just a point of clarity, we don't have members of the Division of Police on that task force, but we do partner with the Sheriff's Department, but we aren't actively have members that are assigned to that.
Will you be having members assigned, or is that something you're still deciding, or do you guys have your separate?
We haven't had talks about that at this time,
Okay.
so I can't answer that question right now.
Okay.
Any further questions? Okay, and we'll get the videos out to you within the 7 days. If there's further updates, we'll make sure we provide those as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hey, just for point of clarification, the chase wasn't consistently at 60 miles per hour.
Right, I understand.
You know what I mean?
Just, yeah, 'cause we were listening to broadcast.
Yeah.
I found a shell over there, if you want, I could tell you that, where the crash site was.
Is it still there? Did you
Yeah.
grab it? Okay.
No, I was
Yeah,
gonna grab it,
so
but I
our
thought-
detectives will go out at
I
some
can
point.
show you a picture of it.
Yeah, they actually go out again to canvas, because in the evening, obviously, stuff could be missed. So they do like a second walkthrough to see if there's anything.
I marked it with a stick.
Okay, I'll let them know that we're, I appreciate that.
All right.
Question for you, Sergeant Diaz. Will we be able to get any footage today, dash cam?
No, so we will release the body cam footage. We